Okay, I think we are ready to go. So everyone, welcome today. Again, my name is Andrea Feller. I'm the Curator of Education, and I'm excited to talk to all of you today. So today we are talking about Maria Martinez's legacy. So here's just a few works of Maria to get started. So sometime between 1881 and 1887, as there is no actual record of her birth, in San Elviso Pueblo, New Mexico, there was a baby girl born, and her name was Maria Povoca Montoya. And she's better known today as Maria Martinez. And she was part of the Tewa tribe, and she was destined to be one of the best known potters of her time. She, along with her husband, created a refined black on black pottery that has no predecessor. And although there were some remains of some black pottery that had been found in Mexico dating to the 11th and 14th centuries, the skill and the decorations on her black gloss and black glassware with matte decorations first reached prominence with her and her husband's work. As a small child, she learned the ins and outs of pottery by watching her aunt. Her aunt made polychrome wares, and we'll see an example of that later. And she learned by watching. So this is a lot how her family and how the tribe she's from, they just teach by showing and watching and participating. So that's how she learned. And at the time she was at her birth, the Pueblo was undergoing a great cultural change, and pottery making was in decline. Women were still making pottery, but it wasn't part of daily life, as tinwares and enamel wares were replacing traditional pottery. And just because I wanted to double check too, here's just a quick little map. So this is basically where she was living. So it's 25 miles west of Santa Fe, and their tribe area is just 41 square miles.
Andrea, can you change your view of your PowerPoint? We can see.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can see everything? Oh, okay. Yep. Okay, is that right? Okay, thanks for telling me. It all looks the same over here. So this is an image of Maria this is when she first basically started to become renowned. This is an early picture from the 1920s. So most of my information I was deriving from the master book on Maria Martinez, which is by Susan Peterson. And so this is an image from that book. So through her creation of her ceramics, she won countless awards. She gave numerous demonstrations, and she actually holds 2 honorary doctorates. I learned from watching some of the things from the videos about her, she actually personally only received a 3rd grade education, the equivalent of. So it's just amazing how much knowledge she knew and all the things she accomplished. And she even said at one point that she's not as smart as other people, but I disagree. So the story of how black on black ware started was a story that Maria loved to tell. And it was in about 1907 or 1908, and there was an archaeological dig in Frijoles Canyon, and they found this black ware pottery. They weren't complete, it was just shards. And Dr. Hewitt, the director of Museum for New Mexico, and he was a professor of archaeology, reached out and worked with Maria to see if she could figure out how to help them make these vessels complete. And at first she's like, I have no idea how to create black on black ware. But with her husband, whose name is Julian, did some experiments, and they were able to figure out how to do it. The first experiments, they were making them, they were trying to work on this project for the museum, but they weren't really doing anything with it. So it wasn't until they came back and visited that Dr. Hewitt and others in the museum field were beyond impressed and excited about their black on black ware. So they went ahead and switched, and they started focusing on it. So it was about 1918 that the first decorated pot was fired. The pottery that Maria and Julian made together was finer, more highly polished, and blacker than any shards from the excavation. And her pieces were completely symmetric, and they were all just made by hand. Her burnishing technique was so refined there was no streaks, and their collaboration was perfected together by 1921, and black on black pottery techniques became internationally known and basically put the Pueblo on the map. And by 1925, because they were so generous, everyone in the area and the surrounding tribes began making black on black ware, and it was essentially just an international sensation. By the 1930s, Maria's income was unprecedented for Pueblo potteries, and she was just known. In 1943, her husband unexpectedly died, and then she went through different periods of working with her different children, being her, and her daughter-in-laws being her collaborators.
You know, our employers.
And then by 1956, the partnership that was most productive was when her son, Popove Day, took over decorating the pottery. So Maria would make the form and polish it, and then she would have either, depending upon what stage, either her husband, her daughter-in-law, or then again her son do the decorations for her. So I have to admit, I have learned how to do this the hard way, and I've learned that ceramics teachers love to teach about Maria Martinez, and they also love to challenge their students to burnish like Maria. So I had my own few forays into ceramics courses, and I've given them a try, and I've made what I can. I've learned a few things. One, my thumbs are crooked. And apparently, because if you have crooked thumbs, you can't make a really good straight pinch pot. So I have that issue going against me. And number two, that with this assignment I was given, it was a pretty, I was pretty bold. I thought I could do this. I thought it wasn't an issue. And I burnished this thing until I had cramps in my hand. So I have a poll. So I'm going to show you my own, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can mess it up again. So here is my little pot that I made. So I have a poll question that should be going up in just a second. And I just ask you to participate. Nice and refined, you can see inside. So, as you can tell by this lovely specimen, there are streaks. Again, it is not symmetrical because, again, my thumbs are not symmetrical, so it's a reflection of that. And I appreciate your guys' generosity of either lying and say this would pass for Maria Martinez, or saying that there's no reason to be mean, and then most of you not participating because it's a loaded question. All right, let me go ahead and get back to switching. See how I can, so the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to, I need to switch this. Okay, let me get back into share slide mode, share my screen. So I went on a bit of an adventure trying to find information and images about Maria Martinez, and I stumbled across this documentary from the 1970s. And I couldn't find any image or any picture that did explain burnishing better than Maria Martinez herself demonstrating in this. So we're just gonna watch this video for a little bit. We'll put the link to the full video in the chat. I was personally fascinated by it. I guess I really like the aesthetic of 1970s videos. So let me go ahead and show this with you, and I'm just gonna share, we're just gonna watch it just for a few minutes. And I have to do it again because I didn't hit the right button.
Then it's ready for polishing.
An earth-colored clay in semi-liquid form, called a slip, is applied. 4 or 5 coats are used, and only as much area is covered as can be polished before the slip dries completely. Should the slip dry before polishing is completed, streaks will show up after the firing. The polishing stones come from creek beds, where fast-running water has rounded and smoothed them. It takes many years of constant use before the polishing stone acquires a truly smooth finish and becomes a prized possession. Many of the stones used by Maria were used previously by her aunt. Midday used these same polishing stones, as does his son, who is also an accomplished potter. The high gloss finish characteristic of this pottery is a result of the painstaking hand polishing. The potters of San Ildefonso do not use glazes.
Long time they used to make black pottery too, but not fire so nice, no polish so nice. They just make black pottery to use. But later on I find out that when I make a high polished one, that I carved down touch and it came black, and I got the high polish because I work hard and take long to polish. And when the pot is already polished, then they put a designer. I don't put designer.
The decoration done with another earth color, which
Okay, sorry. Back and forth to try to make sure we...
would be the same material as your...
Okay, we go back to my PowerPoint. Actually, so I'll go back to it in just a second. So jumping ahead, I just had one pot, but there's one more section of this film I want to show you, which is the firing process, which is kind of absolutely crazy to watch and see how they did this and how they created the pots together. So let me get in the right spot. All right, does everyone see the right screen with just Maria on it?
Crucial step, while Midday...
So they're right here. I just wanted to go here really quickly because it's so you can see it.
containing pitch would lead...
So they hand stack all the pots and then they cover them. And here they're putting metal over to help with the heat conduction.
Flame touches the pottery. Maria's sister, by tradition in the Martinez family, always starts the fire. She walks slowly about the grate, lighting the kindling on all sides. The dry cedar crackles in the still air, igniting the cow chips. And for the next hour or so, the fire burns briskly. Until recently, it was believed the temperatures reached were in the neighborhood of 800 degrees Fahrenheit. Recent tests, however, using kill temperature combs, indicate much higher heat is attained.
It is found that we used or fire our pottery pieces around 12 to 1400 Fahrenheit. All of this is determined only by actual experience.
It is the high carbon content of the manure, smoldering over the hot ashes, which turns the earth-colored pottery jet black. The mound is completely covered as Popovi Day darts in and out of the smoke to plug flare-ups, tiny volcano-like eruptions caused by the internal heat, before an open flame develops. Ashes from previous firings are also used to help smother the fire. For nearly 3 hours, Popovi Day works with the fire.
Long time we had a hard time firing black pottery. When the wind is blowing, then they don't fire good. But now I find myself to cover it with ashes and keep every smoke in tight until the manure is all burned down. And we have to see if any smoke. When no smoke, then we take them out. And the ashes help to cool the pottery.
Finally, it is time to open the mound.
The pieces are ready for removing from the actual firing. And this is a great moment for every one of us, because we ourselves do not know what we are going to have from one firing to the next. So it's a very tense moment. Also, we must understand that it could be disheartening too if we find that a greater percentage of our pottery pieces, when uncovered, are found broken. Of course, this sometimes will not show until you examine them better under a stronger light. The fine hairline crack that sometimes do come to the surface because of sudden exposure to the cold air.
Working deftly with sticks, Popovi Day and his mother Maria remove the still hot pottery from the coals. Piece by piece, the gleaming black San Ildefonso pottery emerges from the ashes. The skilled and painstaking craftsmanship, as well as the design integrity, produce pieces which are sought after by museums and private collectors alike. While the monetary value of handmade, outdoor-fired pottery has risen sharply in recent years, it is the pride of workmanship and the desire to create something of lasting beauty which motivates most of the few remaining Indian potters. With undue pride, Popovi Day said,
This particular firing
Okay. So thank you for indulging me in watching that
was
video.
very successful. We're
Okay, let's go back to the PowerPoint now. Okay. So the other thing I was able to do, which you should be seeing on your screen now, is we have a few Maria Martinez's that are out, that are getting ready to be put into one of our display cabinets in Art in Focus. And so this is my not so great cell phone video walking around the piece. But I found a really unique discovery looking at the piece that we'll flip to in just a second when we go, because I wanted to show you the bottom, because I don't think very often when you look at art, you get the option to see the bottom. And what was cool about this piece is I personally never studied the bottom of any Maria Martinez ware, but in pencil written on this vessel, it says $21. So we know, because it signed Santana, which was Maria Sharapova's daughter-in-law, I know that this piece was made in the 1950s. And so it's just like at that point with the original made, unless someone else, I mean, it's pencil, so at any point someone could have made changes to the piece that I was unaware of, but it's right there. And it says $21, which I think is really cool. So I just have a few vessels of hers that are in the museum's collection. So we have 36 pieces in total in the museum's collection, which is really robust. Most of them were collected well before any of our current staff were on staff. So I'm not sure all the reasonings or why we got the pieces. Since the initial gift many, many years ago, we've only accepted just a handful of pieces, and those were showing different deficiencies we didn't have before, of different types of or wares that we did not have. So here's just a tall decorated vase. And then we have this small wave design bowl. And then we have another feather piece, which is similar to the one I showed you. And then this is another one, another same decoration. So this was, because of the time frame, this was again the same one that I did the walkthrough of. And this is one with a serpent design. The glare makes it a little bit harder to see the full serpent design. And then we have our geometric design. And then we have in our collection, we happen to have actually one red ware design. So I'm not sure if this was firing gone wrong, as if you watch the whole video. So essentially, if you want the wares to stay red, you don't add the manure and you don't stop the fire. Instead, you just let the fire burn hot, and then it'll retain, so that the red is more the natural color of the clay. So I'm unsure if this was an accident, but I don't think Maria would ever really share anything that happened on accident. So this was a work. This period, this dating period, is the period she was working with her son, and her son was pushing her a lot to try a few new things. The other thing her son did is with this vessel is he convinced his mom, so Popove Day wanted to revive some of the polychrome wares. And so although it was a very small overall portion of the pieces they created, they did create some of these pieces. And this was the type of pottery that Maria was first taught as a very small child. So basically now we get to Maria's legacy. So her legacy is a significant one. Over the course of around 93 years, again, because we don't know her exact date of birth, pottery became the single most important source of income for the Pueblos, and many potters are now at an income level that could be ascribed as affluent when previously they were not. Today's prices are a far cry from just a few years ago. When Maria was just starting selling these wares, some of them were going for as little as $1, that from my research. And probably even more important, her and her husband saved a portion of Americans' cultural heritage from extinction. The most productive and most important partnership Maria had with another potter who was helping her decorate was that with her son. And they worked closely from 1956 to 1971. And if he hadn't have started working with her, she would have most likely retired earlier. So she retired in about 1970, 1971. as she was advancing in age, as you can see in the video, I showed that even though there were small pieces, her small pieces were becoming heavier, and her son was kind of helping her. So the last pieces she was known to make was actually made in 1970, but a few of the firings happened in 1971. So that's why you might find a few pieces that date to that period. So I love this quote from Maria. God and the Great Spirit gave me hands that work. God gave me that hand, not for myself, but for my people. She was so generous with allowing people to learn. The process she was doing really helped revive her whole area. And then her legacy continues with her many generations of children. So the next artist, so this is her great-great-granddaughter, is Barbara Gonzalez, and she's probably the most prolific potter, although many of her other children and grandchildren and great-great-great-grandchildren probably at this point. So she was, her grandparents was Adam and Santana Martinez, who worked directly with Maria, and her mother was Anita Martinez, and she was also a potter. So she signs most of her work Sunbeam, which is the English translation of her Indian name, which I will do us all a favor and not say it out of wanting to respect a proper pronunciation of her name, as I was unable to find someone to help me with that. So the work on the side with the inlay, so she does things a little differently. She works in the black on black wares, branching out into red, black, and polychrome, and then she works a lot with inlays in her work. So this vessel over here on the side, it's 4.5 inches tall and 5.5 inches wide. And a lot of Maria's work, if you notice the sizes, a lot of them are just are smaller. They're such precious little objects. And then this is another work by her great-granddaughter. So this one is 2 3/4 inches tall and 5.5 inches wide. I can't wait to see what the next generations of her descendants add to the field of pottery and what they end up doing to their artistry. But that is a wrap on Maria Martinez and her legacy. And so now it's to the point, I just want to know if anyone has any questions. And if anyone wants to go back and see anything, I'm happy to go share or just answer any questions. So the book that Mary Beth mentioned, currently stolen from the CRC archives, but will be safely returned shortly. This is the book. It is fabulous. It is more photos of everything. It was a great read. It has sections on her children and other the pottery that they've done, and then she has extensive images throughout Maria's life. Like here's an image of her working with her kids, teaching her great grandkids. So anyway, it's a great resource. I'm glad you liked seeing the bottom of the pot, Dawn. Once I was like, of course I had a team member helping me, and I was like, I want to show the bottom, and then I was super excited to see it myself, because I saw anytime you can find it, it's amazing what art tells you when you look on the back or the bottom. So it's not so the question is the surface of the fired pot metal? So no. So what's applied to the pot is liquid form of the clay. So it's 100% ceramic and clay, and then it's just burnished so it looks like it's metal and shine, and it's not magnetic at all. I don't have a magnet to even test. I can test my wonderful pot, but I would never test one of Maria's. But I am positive, I'm like 99% sure there's no, unless you put in metal into the vessel itself, but that would probably make it explode in the kiln when you fired it, even though it's not a kiln, it's a pile. But yeah, no, it just looks that way. Any other questions?
When will we be able to see these pieces?
So you can see some today at the Ceramics Research Center. So in the back classroom, we have a selection of her works on display. If you, so the pieces will be installed in Art in Focus, and that will open on September 26th. And we'll have a piece in, like 2 pieces in that, the display cabinet in Art in Focus on her. And if you come to the museum and hit me up on one of the days I'm here, there's currently 3 pieces in Nikki's office that I could probably make arrangements to show someone if they were to come ask me about it. So yes, the $21 pot must be worth much more now. I pride myself being in education, and I always have my disclaimer, I don't look at values because so much can get distracted by what's a current value in terms of like making comparisons of what's more valuable than something else. So I purposely never look at art, because in terms of the museum, everything is equally invaluable. Yes, there are probably more things that are more invaluable than other things. But yeah, no, some of the searches resulted, if you Google, you can find things on sale at eBay today, and they have some values that are significantly much more than $21.
Andrea, how long is the show will be?
So the Art in Focus show will be up through the end of May, Blossom. So yeah, so I think it's May, early June it comes down. I don't have the exact date off the top of my head, but again, we always have some in our permanent storage at the Ceramics Research Center. So we always have some Maria Martinez's available for view. Well, if no one else has any other questions, I just want to thank everyone for joining us today and having a great time looking at Maria's work. I always find looking at her work calming. And if you're interested, I mean, it is a few more minutes. I think the whole video is about 30 minutes, but I personally enjoyed watching the interview with Maria Martinez that I found on YouTube. I found it to be very informal and fun and kind of quirky, which makes it even better. But it's a really fun video. So I will go ahead and end here. And if anyone has any other follow-up questions, feel free to send me an email. I am happy to answer. And we look forward to seeing you all next month for our presentations in October. So I guess we'll see you all later.